The Nova Guest List Podcast.
With Kieran McGuinness.
The very best in indie, alternative and homegrown music. From the seriously addictive Radio Nova.
So that was That Girl, a brilliant new song by Ailbhe Reddy from her new album Kiss Big, which came out a week or two ago. Absolutely brilliant listen. Slightly different, I think, for people who've enjoyed the music, Ailbhe's music beforehand. It's kind of a development on kind of where she was before, but it's just a brilliant listen and a really, really brilliant album to start the year off with. But we're so lucky because live from New York, we have Ailbhe Reddy on the line. How's it going, Ailbhe?
It's going great. It's about minus 15 degrees here. I'm looking out on the Hudson and it is just chock full of ice. So that's something new, something a bit interesting.
Yeah, that's the kind of detail that I need. That's perfect. Thank God. It is. Yeah, it's very cold there. I've been in freezing cold New York before. It is an experience. So let's chat about the album. So Kiss Big came out a week or two ago. You must be delighted to have it out.
I'm chuffed to have it out just because I was working on it for so long, and when my last record came out, I then was working with a label, and then we parted ways while I was recording this one. So it just took forever to actually get going with it. And Don Giovanni, who are based in Philadelphia, ended up coming on board. They're a great indie label, and they've just been a pleasure to work with. But yeah, I'm delighted to finally get it out. You always end up sitting on these things for so long. Yeah,
of course. And I suppose it has been sort of 3 years since Endless Affair came out. But the album is, I feel like it's kind of a development in some ways sonically, but it's also the kind of stuff that you're kind of known for, I suppose. It's really kind of vulnerable, it's very intimate, it's evocative. But one of the things that kind of stands out is how much of it is sort of snapshots of like moments in a kind of a relationship. So it's a kind of a breakup album, I guess. And it's like little snapshots of that all the way through. When you were writing this album, was it like really clear from the start this is going to be a sort of a breakup album or a kind of a story about that time? Or did you ever kind of have any kind of uncertainty about where it would lead you?
I suppose I've never started writing songs being like, this is exactly what I'm attempting to do. It feels like the songs take shape. And really, by the time I finished writing, I probably had like 15 songs that we did it in studio or played around with in studio. Didn't use all of them, only used 9. So, and it naturally kind of took shape as the way that the track listing is like chronological order within how I wrote them almost. But it's more like it's a breakup album. So many albums are breakup albums, I suppose. But it's also about like seeing yourself and how you change and how you develop as a person through the lens of a relationship and the ending of a relationship and the beginning of a new one. And that kind of cyclical nature of romantic relationships where you fall out of love with one person and it's awful and you say, oh, I'll never love again. And then you find yourself in the same position again, and just viewing yourself change coming in and out of these things.
Yeah, it's funny though, like a lot of the writing, and I don't know whether you are aware of that, but a lot of the writing sounds or feels like imagined conversations that you're having internally. And it kind of, there's a kind of like an inner world kind of feel to it, like this is what has been going on, you're processing all this kind of stuff. Did you notice that's the way it went, or how did that analysis of the album come about?
Well, you're totally right. It's probably conversations, imagine conversations with the other person, or kind of an inner monologue put to music. I mean, I think a line is trying to be, the opening track is trying to be very pragmatic and peaceful and like wish you all the best, and That Girl is more about like, where do I go from now? I mean, I think that writing music for another person is often, or like about another person, is really just writing about yourself through the lens of someone else, because that's kind of easier. It's easier to express yourself when it's to music, and it's easier to express yourself when you're putting it through another person. Yeah,
totally. It's funny though, because like there's lots of other people on this album, but it does feel like this is you and you're welcoming the person into your head, and there's an intimacy there that I guess is, not that there's a bravery in putting that out, but did you have any trepidation of like, this is really, really my thoughts, my bare kind of raw emotions? Did you have any, reticence to putting it out, or do you not think about things that way?
I totally think about things that way. I mean, the way that I worked on this album was that I demoed all the songs to bits. Like a few of the songs had been demoed 3 or 4 different times before I showed them to Tommy. And then that's always the scariest bit, is showing it to people But I suppose the bit that makes me uncomfortable, I definitely do thinking about it, but it's not about, I get to make the choice to put it out there, but I do feel, there's no way to resolve this. It's just something I feel that it's almost kind of unfair to be able to put out songs that you've written about experiences you've had with other people, because, you get to control the narrative of it there. That bit makes me a bit uncomfortable. I don't mind the bit that's me showing my private thoughts or life or whatever. That doesn't bother me at all, because it's kind of my choice to do that. You know, I haven't accidentally put it out there, but it is kind of odd to share things about a relationship you had with someone else who's not involved in the conversation. It feels kind of unfair.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the obvious question is, I mean, maybe you don't know the answer, but like, do you have any thought about the person that the songs are about and the relationship is about, you know, hearing the album and having opinions on it? Or, I mean, that seems like the obvious question, you know?
Well, it's actually, albums and songs, I'm sure you know yourself, are an amalgamation of different experiences and people that you meet along the way. So it's not really just one person who you're putting it out and hoping listens. But also, I don't really mind putting out, you know, it's my choice to put out music that I've written about my inner life. It does make me kind of uncomfortable that you're putting it out about various other people that you've experienced along the way, and they don't get to control the narrative at all. I suppose whoever puts the music out gets to say what they want to say, and the other person doesn't really get a rebuttal. That's the only bit that would give me trepidation or whatever, as you said. But it's the only way to really release art, I think, is to just do it honestly.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there will be a rebuttal. I'm looking forward to that. So this continues your kind of mild obsession with faces, the Ailbhe Reddy face obsession, and it's all across this as well. You know, neck and hair and eyes and nose and skin and all the stuff to do with people's heads. Did you ever see that in your writing, or is that something that you know, I'm saying to you and you're going, oh, really?
Well, do the other albums have connections to faces?
Yeah, there's lots of facial stuff going on, mentioning of faces and hands on faces and your hand across my face. And as well, your first album had a face on the cover, and the last album, it was hundreds of faces on it. And now this one is two faces really, really close up.
Yeah, well, I suppose when you're thinking back on intimate moments, it's just flashes of close-ups, you know, someone's hands, or the things that you remember, kind of the little intimate moments are usually those kind of close-ups. I worked with an amazing photographer and designer on this album who, you know, when we were going through photography books, we went across all of these photographs of really close-up kisses. And I find it kind of jarring, because when you first look at it, you kind of think like, oh, what is that? That is kind of abstract, but a very intimate moment. And we just shot a bunch of my friends kissing in my friend's garden in Hackney on like 11 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and did zooming close-ups of people kissing. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that is cool. Well, look, it's a really brilliant album. It's a great listen. One of the things that I really like about it is because it flows really well. The songs flow really well together, but they are all quite different, you know. And when it gets to the track, third track, "So Quickly Baby," which I think is my highlight of the album, my favourite song on it. When it gets to that track, it's like a different sound for the album, but also a very kind of natural sound for you. And so that song just instantly kind of stands out in an interesting way. "So Quickly Baby," can you tell us a little bit about that before we play it?
Yeah, I think "So Quickly Baby" was... the verses are trying to be kind of pragmatic and gentle and wish you all the best, much like a line. And the choruses are those moments of, oh my God, how are you okay already when I'm not okay yet? So kind of a bit petulant or panicked. There's a kind of a panic in them and a desire to like have moved on as quickly as the other person, as if it's a kind of competition, which it never is. So yeah, I think it is a bit different, because the rest of the songs are a bit more introspective, and this one feels very focused on the kind of outward.
Okay, well, let's play it. It's absolutely great. It's from the brilliant album Kiss Big by Ailbhe Reddy. Ailbhe, thanks so much for chatting to us today, and make sure you're nice and warm for the rest of your weekend there in New York.
Thank you so much. Really nice chatting to you, and thanks for the support.
Yeah, it's a brilliant album. This is "So Quickly Baby." It's Radio Nova.
The Nova Guest List Podcast with Kieran McGuinness. The very best in indie, alternative and homegrown music from the seriously addictive Radio Nova.